But Raider Jim, your final thoughts as we wrap up this edition of the original Call to Post.
Yeah, final thoughts while we sit here and give you our, knowledge on what we know about horses, and how, if you want to lose your money, just listen to us type of knowledge. We can do that. And a lot of people will do that this coming weekend. But let's please, the first thing when you wake up Monday morning or before you go to bed on Sunday night, remember why you have that freedom to go out there, no matter what condition the nation is in right now. The nation is still standing because of the acts of so many men and women and their families. And I never take it for granted. It was my dad was out there. My grandfather was out there. And, there's other people that you probably don't even realize, or it's worth looking up. Willie Mays. Willie Mays didn't break Babe Ruth's home run record because he was in the Army for 2 years in the middle of his career. Joe DiMaggio took time off from the New York Yankees, still got a bunch of rings and a bunch of accolades, but he took time off to be in the service. The last guy to hit 400, Ted Williams, took time off to be in the service. So many of the athletes back then, and probably the one nearest and dearest to me is a gentleman I got to call friend and become familiar with, and even got to dine with him in the press box, the Colonel Jerry Coleman, who 1948 Rookie of the Year when he was with the New York Yankees. And he stopped in the middle of his Yankee career to go fly jets over in Korea during the Korean War. So many people gave so many things, and the sacrifices are so great. Please remember all the veterans and their families.
Amen. Yeah. And, sometimes, and it's not terrible, but I do think sometimes people need to know the difference between Veterans Day and Memorial Day. Obviously, Veterans Day is essentially like every day. You should always be thinking about the veterans. You should thank a veteran. You should, if you're able to, buy them lunch or, buy them a cup of coffee, whatever you're able to do, or however you're able to show your support. Memorial Day is kind of the quote that I always think of with Memorial Day is all gave some gave all. And every single person that's been in the military in whatever branch, they've all put themselves in a position to essentially give their lives for us. And some unfortunately had to do that. And as you mentioned, and as I kind of alluded to earlier on Monday, and really again every day, but especially on Monday, before you turn your barbecue on or before you turn on the races that we just talked about, take a minute, think about the people that are not here, in order for myself, Raider Jim, and you all, for us to talk about something as kind of somewhat meaningless as horse racing, and for y'all to listen to us talk about it. It's because of not just the people who lost their lives, but for every single service man and woman who has put their lives on the line, and knowing they possibly will have to give their life for their country. I don't think there is any more noble thing you can ask for. So again, on Monday, make sure that you take a moment and do that. And also, you should always thank a veteran, but Memorial Day is a day that I've heard from other veterans, they're not big fans of being thanked on that day because, again, it is not their day. They came home. This is for the people that did not. And then I do just want to throw one more, definitely not more important, but it did happen yesterday. And I'm sure Raider Jim will join me in obviously two unfortunate deaths yesterday, or might have been 2 days ago. But we saw George Wendt, a.k.a. Norm from Cheers. Obviously, if you're of a certain age, you know who Norm is, Cheers, and you could probably have all kinds of quotes, plenty of Norm quotes. He unfortunately passed away. And kind of out of the blue yesterday, Colts owner Jim Irsay passed away. And look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Jim Irsay was the beacon of humanity and he was the greatest human being ever. he had his demons, he had his things that he had to deal with. But at the end of the day, he dealt with them with as much class as he was able to. And I do just want to give a tip of the cap to Mr. Irsay. Obviously, again, kind of came out of nowhere. With all due respect to George Wendt, that is what it is. But Jim Irsay is kind of, they even showed like the last tweet, and it was just 2 days ago of him, cheering on the Pacers in their Eastern Conference final. So just wanted to kind of give them a little bit of a shout out. But mainly, as much as those two individuals were great, this weekend is all about the veterans that did not make it home. And from us to their families and everybody who has been affected by that, thank you, and our condolences go out to you. But with that being said, thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the original Call to Post here on the network. We break down everything horse racing has to offer. It is time for you all to go wash your hands and stop hating, everybody. We'll talk to you all very soon. Take care.